Imagine waking up 12,000 years ago. You open your eyes and, well, there are absolutely no supermarkets, no fast food, and definitely no delivery apps on your smartphone. You are entirely on your own. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to look at the ultimate step-by-step survival guide to quitting the hunter-gatherer grind. We'll explore exactly how early humans went from wandering the wild savanna to literally building the foundations of the modern world.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is your survival manual for today. First up, the hunter-gatherer problem. Second, hack the dirt. Third, automate the grind. Fourth, defend your turf. And finally, the ultimate payoff.
All right, starting with Section 1, the hunter-gatherer problem.
So before anyone could invent farming, they kind of had to realize that their current survival strategy was frankly fundamentally broken. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans were purely hunter-gatherers. I want you to think about what that actually means for your daily survival. You're sprinting across a rocky, treacherous landscape, chasing down wild animals with nothing but a primitive wooden spear. And if you didn't catch it, you simply didn't eat. It was exhausting, incredibly dangerous, and actually scratch that, it was just highly unreliable. Growing food, on the other hand, offered this revolutionary new strategy. It was an intentional, localized, and highly structured way to survive.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 2, hack the dirt. This is where the survival strategy really shifted. Someone, somewhere, had this massive light bulb moment. They looked down at a pile of old fruit seeds dropped on the ground and noticed just a tiny green sprout. And it hit them. Seeds left in the dirt eventually grew into brand new plants. So early humans made this completely radical decision to stop wandering. They took sharp, heavy stones attached to wooden sticks and started scratching lines into patches of dark, rich soil right near riverbanks. Guys, this brilliantly illustrates the birth of agriculture. The very first intentional planting of crops, carefully dropping grains of wild wheat and barley into those freshly scratched lines in the dirt.
But let's be totally clear here. Executing this new survival plan was not easy. It required an unbelievable amount of hard, back-breaking manual labor. First, you got to clear the land. Then you plant the seeds. Step 3 is where the real grind begins. Without modern tools, every single stubborn, spiky green weed had to be pulled out entirely by hand, day after day. And step 4? Hauling water. Ancient farmers built their lives around major river valleys specifically because they had to constantly walk back and forth carrying these massive, heavy clay pots just to keep their crops alive.
Okay, moving right along to Section 3, automate the grind.
To survive this immense physical toll, early humans had to find a way to work smarter. Because, well, before they found a way to automate, humans were the actual engines of their farms. Just imagine the complete and utter exhaustion of struggling to manually push and pull primitive wooden plows through thick, heavy mud. Now, to solve the water issue, they learned to dig basic canals to divert river water directly into their thirsty fields. But the plowing? That was still absolutely backbreaking. They desperately needed a serious survival upgrade. Enter the next big brain move: domestication. By coaxing and training wild oxen and cattle to pull those heavy wooden plows, humans no longer had to be the engines. They could literally sit back and guide the animals. The result? A staggering 4 times multiplier in efficiency, just by letting animals do all the heavy lifting. I mean, what a total game changer.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds. Defend your turf. Now, more crops naturally meant more responsibility. Once you plant your food in one place, you can't just pack up and run away when trouble arrives. And nature was wildly unpredictable. A single bad drought or a massive flood with heavy lightning meant absolute disaster for the harvest. And then there were the living threats. A giant swarm of locusts could descend and destroy months of exhausting work in just a single afternoon. Seriously, a single afternoon. Not to mention wild animals looking for an easy meal or thieves wanting to take what you painstakingly grew.
So, I want you to really think about this for a second. You've cleared the land, you've pulled the spiky weeds by hand, hauled the heavy clay pots, and steered the oxen. How on earth do you protect all those months of hard work when a sudden threat can wipe it out in a single afternoon? The solution was simple but incredibly effective. Build fences and guard towers. Humans started building physical structures just to protect their precious food. They constructed simple fences made out of sharpened wooden sticks placed all around their fields, and they built guard towers to keep a close watch for wild animals and thieves. So farming didn't just invent agriculture. It literally forced humans to invent architecture and defense out of pure necessity.
Which brings us to the finish line. Section 5. The ultimate payoff.
The absolute ultimate goal of this entire survival guide comes down to one thing: harvest season. When the tall, golden wheat stalks were finally ready, early farmers used primitive sickles made of curved flint attached to animal bones to cut down the crops. Then, they'd manually stomp the wheat on a flat stone to separate the food from the useless husks. And this labor, it resulted in something truly magical: massive piles of grain stacked inside basic mud brick storage huts. So, the crucial point is this quote: for the first time in human history, people had a surplus, more food than they could eat in one day.
This surplus is basically the ultimate cheat code of human existence. Because not everyone had to spend every waking second frantically searching for food, people finally had free time. They could, sit on a stone bench and carve a small wooden toy. And this free time allowed humans to build permanent houses out of mud brick instead of just temporary shelters. They invented pottery to store their massive food surpluses. With extra goods, they started trading in bustling marketplaces. Almost overnight, these small farming villages rapidly evolved into the world's very first great civilizations. It's just mind-blowing.
And it all goes back to the dirt. So, what does this all mean for us? I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. How completely different would your life be today if someone, 12,000 years ago, hadn't stopped to notice that single green sprout popping out of the ground? The next time you sit down to eat a simple piece of bread, maybe take a quick moment to thank the ancient farmers who hacked the dirt, pulled the weeds, and totally changed our world forever.